Of course you can.
If I leave, is there an echo for you too?
Yes, that's why we didn't do what you're doing. Go ahead.
Should I just go home and let these people go home? Or do I need to be here for the public?
No, this was supposed to be Zoom only.
I think this was noticed Zoom only, wasn't it?
Correct.
Hybrid.
No, it's Zoom only.
Oh, not on the town website because I checked just before I left.
Listen, you can
That's
stay
why-
there if you
That's
want.
why the
Don't
town
worry.
people are here. Anyway, I'm gonna make an executive decision and let them go home, and I will stay on Zoom and go home.
Okay, stay on Zoom though.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Katie. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Fillmore, you have your, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you who did not hear it, Jean texted me. She's tied up in a meeting. I told her, I'm sure we're fine. So if I need her, we can call her, but I'm sure we're fine, but I appreciate the text. So the chairman's comments, just I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. Finance member comments. Anybody at the finance board would like to fill more?
Yeah, this is on the topic of liaisons. And
Sure.
the library board, I met a couple of nights ago, just a couple of comments. The in-person visits are way up. They had actually over 10,000 personal visits in the month of June.
Wow.
And yeah, this is more than in the pre-COVID days. Second point is that the preliminary accounting for the end of the year shows that they are $110,000, call it profit, but 110,000 of income over expenses. And that's their expenses were up over budget, but their fundraising was way over budget. So that gave them the 110. That's all I have, John.
That's draft, Fillmore. That's preliminary, right? For fiscal 22.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports or BOF member comments? Justin?
Real quick, John, on the senior center, just to let the public know, although there's not much, but the Meals on Wheels, starting with this month, actually July, they for the first half of this year, every month they send out a statement to the Meals on Wheels recipients asking if they're able to consider making a donation contribution towards the cost of the meals. Starting with this month, it's actually going to be a bill where they're hoping that people will pay who are able to. So that's just kind of a transition that's been going on this year, and the next phase of it will start with this month of July. Having said that, I don't want to speak completely for the Madison Foundation because I don't know the extent of it, but the Madison Foundation has agreed that if there are people on Meals on Wheels who are financially needy, they will help subsidize those costs. So it's people will still get their meals, but they're going to hopefully, those that are able are hopefully going to start contributing towards the cost.
Thank you. And Justin, just for the audience, the price of the meal.
$7, the same as if you when you go to the senior center to eat, you're always paying the $7 cost. So it will be the same for whether it's at the center or delivered by Meals on Wheels. So
Right. So it's a $7 cost, and trying to get the people who can help contribute. So thank you for the update. Any other BOF committee members? Fillmore and Justin, thanks for the update. Thanks for the input. Any citizen comments?
John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just have two brief liaison reports. One is for the American Rescue Plan. I just again want to let folks in the community know that applications are being accepted. Right now, the application, the form, and all the information for anybody who is interested, the new building committee for the new school, that they are well underway. They now have request for proposals for the, uh, not the, for the construction manager, sorry. So, that is forthcoming, and they are moving right along. That's it.
So the RFP's out for the construction manager, is that what I heard? Or going out?
RFQ, yes. Yep,
RFQ,
it's out.
thank you.
It's out now, and I believe that, it closes soon, and their next meeting, they will be discussing that.
Thanks, Katie. Anything else?
That's it. I'm driving home.
All right, drive careful. First Selectwoman Peggy Lyons.
Hi, good
Let's-
evening, everybody.
Hello.
Real quick, I just want to highlight that there is a new executive assistant in my office, Jacqueline Leott, who joins us here tonight.
Welcome,
and
Jacqueline.
She comes from us from the town of Durham, where she worked for the Laura Francis. So she's very experienced in these matters, and so she'll be kind of you'll see her name popping up on a lot of screens. But we're excited to have her, and she's done a great job and just kind of getting her feet wet right now, figuring everything out. So welcome. Other personnel changes is we did hire a new HR manager who is joining us next week. Her name is Deborah Ferranti, and she comes from the town of Westport. So that's another new employee that will be joining us in town hall. And then thirdly, I don't recall if you were aware that, that our tax collector had retired, Colleen, and we actually did an internal promote after going through a search. And Christina Consiglio, who worked for Colleen, who was the assistant tax collector, is now our new tax collector. She was appointed and has been doing a great job walking right into the full-blown tax collection season. So, and she also has a new assistant working for her. So things are moving and going on really well there. Second thing I just want to mention that was at our Board of Selectmen meeting. I don't know if you saw, but this will eventually involve your board, and it is a grant that we are hoping to receive from the federal government. It's part of the Congressional Directed Spending Program for community projects. It would be, we're hoping to receive $2.5 million to fund the firehouse emergency management project, which is basically expanding the downtown firehouse and adding a training center and emergency management center to that facility. And so this has been something that's been in CIP for a long time, as kind of a hope and a prayer. And we applied for this grant, and we are likely to have to require a special appropriation for the entire project. We think the project could cost as much as $1 million. The grant is for $2.5 million. And it was approved through the appropriation process, but we will not officially know until the budget is actually the federal budget is actually finalized. So, but just want to keep that. I know Stacy's keeping a little list of things that we might, if we're successful, need some special appropriations for matching. And this is one that would be a big win, to be able to turn, whether it's $500,000 into to get $2.5 million would be great. So the third grant that we may be looking for special appropriation is we're applying for to Eversource for some electric vehicle charging stations. So we've kind of we put a plan together so that eventually we can start offering, first of all, purchasing electric vehicles for the municipal fleet, and then also creating, more options available to Madison residents. And so this grant program is being offered right now. The board is going to be talking about it Monday night. We've already had one meeting about it. And what we're looking at that we might need to do as part of a matching piece of this is fund around $50,000, but I don't remember the exact numbers, but that is something on the horizon as we move forward. So none of these have been officially awarded to us yet. Obviously, you have to vote on receiving, but wanted to kind of keep you in the loop on those that might be coming down the pike here, which are great opportunities. A third thing is just I sent around the library MOU, which I think this had been sent out to the Board of Finance last summer. And there was 2 issues that were kind of never got resolved. And I think then it kind of got put on the back burner because of so many other things going on. And we dusted it off in the last month with the library. and kind of negotiated the language that we have that I sent out. And I think the library voted on this, I think, Fillmore, correct, at the meeting early this week. So anyway, so this will be going in front of our board for approval, but wanted to make you aware of it. It does include some language to address the issue about, returning funds back to the town if there's a, if not all money is spent that's budgeted to the library by the town, just to kind of mimic what goes on with town departments. And I think that is it. For now, there's some other grants we're going after. I think you'll be voting on one of them. Those don't require matching. I think so. With that, I think that's the update for now. So
Thanks, Peggy. Congratulations on the grants. If obviously, I know we still have some steps to go, but it's a good start. The MOU does not require any action on our part, correct?
no.
Okay. I didn't think so. Any questions for the first selectman?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Katie.
Peggy, can you just give an update on the charter process and where that is right now? And I know we did not have the charter come to a Board of Finance meeting, and I think a few of us were able to attend the meeting recently and ask some questions, but just wondering if you could give us an update on where that is.
So we sent the draft. I think you were at the meeting where we sent the draft back with our proposed changes. They met last week and made some revisions, I think, and I'm not 100% sure. I think it was last week they met, and we're scheduled to meet with them tomorrow, where they're basically just going to go over. I don't know if they're voting tomorrow. To be honest, I'm not sure. I think tomorrow they're just going to tell us what there might be a few things that they disagreed with, that changes the Board of Selectmen had made, and then they will basically come back to us again.
Highlight some of those changes that are going back and forth. I haven't heard anything since the meeting I attended, so just curious.
I'll find out tomorrow. So it's a Zoom only meeting. I think it's tomorrow. Why do I think? Because I will say it was a little hard. People were the last 2 weeks with vacations and everything. So they met last week, I think. And I'm just looking. Oh, wait, I don't have it on this calendar here. Hold on a second.
Well, Peggy, I think we were asking if you could update us before anything's finalized. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll certainly, they're going to give it back to us, and then we will be voting on a final thing in August is what I'm guessing, because we also have to talk about what we're going to have separate questions on. So I can, and I'll just highlight this to Jacqueline, maybe. Jacqueline, just make sure the Board of Finance, is aware if this is going to be an agenda item for us. We may have it Monday night, but I'm waiting to see, not that we would be voting, but we may have a Monday night discussion about it, but I'm waiting to see what happens tomorrow, because I'm just not as up to speed on where they are, the Charter Review Commission is. But I'll make sure that Jacqueline alerts the board if it's going to be on our agenda. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
And one other quick thing, I just want to, because that Justin had mentioned, the Meals on Wheels thing, Justin, you recall we actually put a bunch of money aside for Meals on Wheels through ARPA for the trust fund. So I don't know, we don't have to talk about it now, but just flagging that again, do we need to relook at that? Are those funds needed, given they're going to start charging and things like that. So just to put it out there.
Yeah, I did bring it up, and maybe Katie can remember too, and because I'm on the ARP committee as well, and I think that the conclusion so far was they had already received some funds out of this, even out of the current round that we're dealing with. I think I have that correct. So, I guess the thought was they're not a priority in the sense that they've already been allocated some monies, and we knew this was coming even then, but I guess depending upon how all the applications come in for these ARP funds, obviously, if there are funds remaining, they could still, I guess that's the question, can they be considered for an additional allocation?
Okay. We'll,
I'll bring it up again at the next meeting, but I think they've definitely gotten our funds, and I think it's even out of this bucket that we're currently, dealing with.
okay, yeah, no, I was thinking just the opposite, that the funding may need not, because that was quite a big amount of money that was set aside for that, so.
Yeah.
So is the need there as much as when we had calculated it last year? So that's,
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got you.
okay,
Why don't we
I will,
research it?
yeah, well,
Yeah,
so
I'll
we'll
check
look
that
into it a
out.
little bit more. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yes.
Thanks, Peggy. Thanks. Justin, any other questions for Peggy? Thanks, Peggy. Citizens' comments. Jacqueline, and let me know if it's, or Stacy. Once, twice, 3 times on from the public like to speak.
I don't see anybody.
Okay, thank you. Item 7, discuss and take action to approve the acceptance of supplemental certified local government grant amount of $8,500 as requested by the Old Elm Street Historic District Committee in the form of motion. Fillmore, you,
Excuse me. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I don't think we approved the minutes. Back item 2.
oh, you're absolutely right. Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes.
Yep.
Second. Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, any discussion or amendments? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the motion carries. Thanks, Fillmore. That number 2 that slid over to the right on mine, how it printed out threw me, but thank you. So we have discussed and take action to approve accepting the supplemental certified local government grant amount of $8,500 as requested by the Old Elm Street Historic District Committee in the form of a motion, please.
So
Anybody?
moved.
Thank
So
you,
moved.
Fillmore. Second. Thanks, Katie. Cindy, discussion.
I just have a question. What is the Old Elm Street District Historic District Committee? What are we talking about here?
I was going to ask that question, Fillmore, but I was going to ask it to you. So, you would know. You've been around longer than me. Aaron, you want to answer that?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I forgot to turn my lights on here.
Okay.
Yes, so the Historic District Commission is looking to create a new historic district along the Post Road that extends near the cemetery and around towards Barbary in that general area. And so this grant is our first grant made under our certified local government status, which was kind of exciting. But secondly, this is just going to fund the inventory of those properties, identifying each of the properties. And then the commission still has to go forward, meeting with the residents to see what the buy-in is essentially for who would like to participate and be part of that historic district. So that's just getting started.
Thanks, Aaron. Any other questions or comments?
I'll just make one comment, John, that for $8,500, we have a 23-page piece of boilerplate. I don't know. It'll probably cost more for the paper.
I get your point, Fillmore. Understood. Any other comments? Seeing all those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Opposed, abstention, that motion carries. Thanks, Aaron. We have discussed and take action to approve accepting DECD brownfield assessment grant amount of $200,000 to fund the environmental site assessment for Academy School. Motion, please.
I'll move.
Katie, second. Justin, or whatever you want to do. Is motion in a second. Discussion.
I assume that this means that if we get this grant, that this is not on top of what has been bonded, that this replaces part of what the town would otherwise have bonded. Is that?
It's the way I understand it, Fillmore.
That's
That's
correct.
absolutely correct.
No, wait, this grant in particular actually is outside of the scope of what the original budget was for the project. This is doing additional work than what we had outlined in the original proposal.
Yeah,
So
but
this
you
would
had to do
actually
the
be,
environmental site assessment, right? So we're not paying for this. We got a grant to do it.
Right. And we had done a preliminary one, and the plan originally had been not to do anything more, but then this grant opportunity came up recently, and Aaron thought it was a good thing to, we should go after this. So this would be supplemental.
Well, thanks, Aaron, 'cause I do think the environmental site assessment would have need to been done, and it's nice to have grant money to pay for it as opposed to local.
Yes, we do need to, because it will be part of the mitigation process. So this is, we likely won't
Yeah,
the full 200. But it's nice to have it just in case.
Justin has his hand up. So following the rules, Justin, I like that. I have to find you from before, but it's okay.
no, I was just curious. I haven't been involved in one of these in a while, but it sounds like a lot of money. Do we know the scope? What are they doing there? Is this like a phase 1 environmental site assessment or?
So we've had the phase 1 and we've had a hazardous building materials survey. And those reports have come back recommending some additional testing near septic system areas, essentially a phase 2 and some further remediation plan. So this is really only a planning end. There's no actual remediation work associated with this. We don't anticipate that the cost of the assessment will be near 200,000. So we likely won't need it.
This is just for the site, or does it also include the building? Or is it just,
It's the building and the property. It can
Okay,
cover
okay.
both. So the phase 2 is
Yeah.
outside of the building.
It really depends on what they find.
Right.
But hopefully,
Right. There were
You want-
some underground storage tanks that needed some additional testing around them. And then there was further recommendation near the septic system to test, just to be on the safe side.
well, good job.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Opposed, abstention. The motion carries. Thanks. Discuss and take action to approve a grant in the amount of $14,000 from Workforce Alliance to provide funding for MYFS Summer Youth Employment Program pending Board of Selectmen approval. Motion, Katie raising her hand or checking her screen, but Katie made the motion. Second, please. You can't second it too. Justin, thank you. Fillmore, you're off your game a little bit today, boy. I'm just letting you know.
I'm getting slow.
I'm sorry. I have to point it out. There's a motion and a second. Discussion.
So I see we're funding some help for the Guilford Yacht Club. Does this mean that the members of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance get free access to the Guilford Yacht Club?
This being a public
don't think
meeting,
so.
Fillmore, I feel that I can just say absolutely yes.
And I would say absolutely not, Scott. But go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make him smile a little bit. So this is a really cool grant that we've had now for a number of summers. This is $14,000. It comes through the state. It's a grant that we can use to fund basically work site jobs for summer jobs for teenagers. In order to be eligible for this grant, we have to be able to show that we have proper sites. And the people who participate in this have to show some kind of a workplace barrier. So for this year, we've been able to identify 6 placements. Those include 2 of our town departments, our technology department, as well as our beach and rec department. The other folks that are participating as job sites, we have a person placed with the Chamber of Commerce, the Guilford Yacht Club, What's Cooking, and the Scranton Library. So just a shout out to all of them and just wonderful to partner with them. And we have 7 participants this year, all of whom are placed in essentially part-time jobs in these businesses. It's a great partnership. It's something that we actually have to work on all year to develop the relationships with businesses. Shout out to Melissa Boletto, who's our Assistant Director for Prevention. She does all of the heavy lifting to keep this program alive. And, it's a little dicey as we set everything up because all of the grant approvals don't actually occur until after we've, made these connections and got these students, set up and connected in their jobs. So you'd be approving us taking this grant. which if you don't, then we cannot get the town reimbursed for all the wages we're going to pay these students. And of course, this will be pending Board of Selectmen approval, which is on the agenda, I believe, for next week.
Well, Scott, I think speaking on behalf of the board, we think it's a great thing. And obviously the grant money and having the Madison youth employed and learning and building those relationships is a very good thing.
Appreciate that.
Any discussion, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, there's a
John, can you
motion
hear
with a
me?
second. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, that motion carries. We have item 10, review of the fireman's pension plan. Now, Fillmore has been updating us on this regularly as a board, so we do appreciate bringing us up to speed. I don't know if there's anything, Fillmore, you want to say. Stacy, you want to update us there, but if you do, feel free.
I don't know anything more than what I reported last time. There had been no pension review meetings. So I'm glad we've gotten this far. I think my personal opinion is that it's time we did update these. I think the original pension monies involved were back, Peggy, how long was it? 1990 or 1970 or somewhere back in the last century.
It was in the 90s. So I think was the last time these were set. So
Yeah, so it's time we updated the monetary rewards for these volunteers. And I must say that I live near downtown, and the fire sirens are going off all the time. These guys and gals are out working very hard. So we're lucky to have these volunteers serving the town in this manner.
Well,
It's a small reward.
I think we agree, Fillmore. I think you've been updating us all along. I didn't know if something changed from the last time we had the discussion. I think there's pretty sure the finance director and first selectman, everybody's have a plan together there. So I do appreciate it. But I didn't know if something changed from our last update. That's all. Stacey, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think the firemen came to us with a proposal. We went back and forth a few times, and I think we finally agreed on something that we all could be comfortable with. We did invite Milliman tonight to talk to you about the actual changes and what the impact to the budget would be in the outgoing years. So Yelena Pelletier is here, and she could definitely fill you in. I just want to add one caveat, excuse me, that when you do see the budget impact, we have been talking internally about trying to phase in the budget impact, and that is not going to come to you tonight. It will go to the Board of Selectmen first and then come to you all afterwards. And the plan is to have the Board of Selectmen vote on the changes next week, and then come to the Board of Finance at your next meeting, and then we'll have to go to town meeting for these changes. So that being said,
hold on.
yeah.
Along those lines, we were planning on not having a meeting in August. Does that still work?
I think that's totally fine. I mean, if we do want to move it forward, maybe we can try to have a special meeting. Otherwise, I think September will be fine, and we'll plan the town meeting after that.
Okay. We're
So I'm going to
flexible.
turn it over to Yelena, if that's okay, John.
Hi, Elaine. Yes, sure. Thanks.
Hi, good evening. I believe some of you have heard the proposal, but I'll recap it for you again. So currently, the plan provides a benefit to members that retire either age 60 or age 65. And as long as a member has 20 years of service, if they retire at age 60, they get a flat dollar annuity of $6,000 per year. And if they retire at age 65, I'm sorry, right now they get $3,000 per year if they retire at age 60, and then $5,000 if they retire at age 65. And the proposal is having those dollar amounts double, and we're phasing that in over a 10-year period. So by the end of the 10-year period, it's going to be $6,000 per year for those age 60 and $10,000 per year for those age 65. And there's also a reduction to that benefit if somebody has less than 20 years of service. There's a vesting percentage that gets applied. So the proposal is to double the benefit both for current retirees and future retirees at the end of the 10-year phase-in period.
Right in the future. Okay.
Stacy, did you want to see cost impacts today or not today?
Yeah, that would be, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, sure. Is Jacqueline able to share the PDF that I provided, or can I share that? Okay. Now, can you all see that? It's a little small for me.
No, I could see it.
Okay, perfect. So what you're looking at is a projection of what the town's contribution will be over the next 20 years. In the first column, we have a projection of what the contribution would be if no changes were made to the plan.
Mhm.
So, the baseline number that's already set. So for the 22-23 plan year, the contribution is about 65,000, and it would be projected to stay around that level for the next 20 years, assuming all our assumptions hold, the assets return what we assume, et cetera. And then in the next column, you see what the contribution will be with this change. We are doubling benefits, so that's a significant increase. So as you can expect, there's a significant increase to the town's contribution. And the last column is showing just the difference between the first two columns, so you can see the impact of the change.
And Elaine, if we wanted to lump sum something earlier, that would change those numbers.
Yes, if you made, what these numbers assume is that you just contribute those numbers each year. If you made a large contribution in the first year, then that would decrease the future contributions.
So it's something we can look at or see if that's, thank you.
Yes, correct.
Thanks, Elaine. Anybody have any questions on this? I mean, it's pretty spelled out very well.
John, I had a couple of quick
Good.
questions.
Good, Justin.
I guess I obviously it's a long document, but so clarify, is to be eligible for this, do you have to have been in service for 20 years, or you mentioned is there a scale for people who are less than 20?
There is a scale for those that have less than 20 years. You have to have, I believe it's at least 15 years or 12 years, depending on which of the two fire companies you're part of. So if you have 12 years for one of the fire companies, you get 50% of that benefit. And then if you have 16 years, you get 75% of that benefit. So you get a fraction.
So I guess then, just to make sure I'm reading it right, so the benefit can be scaled to start with less service, 12 or 15, but I guess is the benefit max out at 20 years, or did I read that correctly? Or?
Yes, that's correct. It's just the 3,000 and 5,000. There's no further increase.
Or 6 and 10 at some point.
Right, 6 and 10 under the proposal. Yep.
And this question is probably not for you, but a few, I guess a little bit unrelated, but a couple of meetings ago, I think it was a Board of Selectmen meeting, Sam DeBurra was describing just the firehouse, the setup with Madison Hose #1. And there was something he mentioned that if you've been in service for 12 years, you can become essentially inactive, but still a member. If someone doesn't want to be as active going out on calls, I guess, but and can still continue to be an official member. Does that have any bearing on this, or is anyone aware of that, what I'm describing, and how that may impact this?
I'm sorry, Justin, I should know that, but I don't.
Okay, that's all right. I mean, we're not voting on this tonight, right? So that
Right. This is to give us some information, we can have the questions answered.
Yeah, I guess though, we haven't changed any of the qualifications.
That's correct.
So, so I don't
Right,
have an answer
right,
specifically to your question. So this just means whoever was qualified before is the qualifications are the same. It's just they're going to get more money now.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that was just, I guess, and maybe that's the answer to this question as well. Just like, how is service determined? I mean, it is a volunteer corps. So, is it just 20 years of being a member, or do they have to be, I don't know how they operate. Do they have their own criteria for being a member in terms of like being on call or responding to calls or anything like that?
The plan summary I have in front of me says that to get a year of service, they have to be credited with 60 credits. I have to admit, I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it's somebody who has more knowledge.
So Jacqueline, can you move over Sam? Because Sam just texted me saying that they have to be active, so maybe we can move him over for further
Yeah, like
answers.
what is active? You know, that's what is active?
Yep.
mean?
Sam's here because I know he's here for another agenda item, so.
I'm having trouble with my connection. Can you guys still hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm kind of like on phone and
Sam,
both, but I think my
Sam.
kids are on the internet.
Justin had a question. How did we, how to service their 60 credits, or how does that work?
So we have a certain percentage of, so there's 3 categories. There's meetings, drills, and fire calls. And we have to make a certain percentage within each of those categories to come up with the 60 points. If you're delinquent, you don't get credit for the year. So you
That's
can still,
monitored by who, Sam?
it's monitored by the department.
Okay.
So we have evaluations every 6 months. And if a person is delinquent, they can still get put back in good standing, but they get deducted a 1-year pension credit if they don't make the 60 points for the year.
Justin, you're on mute, bud. Justin. Now you're frozen.
So in answer to his exempt, what we call, it's like a exemption from the criteria. It's kind of like a life membership, but your time doesn't advance. So you could be an exempt member for 10 years and you don't get 22 years of service. You only get to 12. Like if you went at 12 years, if you went exempt, you could be a member for another 15 years, but you don't get any more advanced time.
Here were my thoughts. Go ahead, Sam.
The only way you can advance your time is if you, so you can move from one department to another within 2 years, and you can take the time you served in the other department, or you can, like, say if I went exempt and came back active within a couple of years, then I can continue my time, but you have to be on the active roster to accrue time.
My thoughts would be this. I mean, Elena's here. Elena, if you could send that to us, but that's pretty easy to read. The benefit gets, at a certain point, freezes, right? It doesn't matter. You're either going to get the 6 and the 10 at a certain point. So if we have any questions, we're not voting on this tonight at all. Stacy will decide if we need to have a special meeting in August or if not in September. So any questions like this, we can email. I'm going to point it to you, Stacy. We'll email you and you can send them to the appropriate departments and we can get the answers before we need to vote. Does that sound fair? I lost Justin. That's why for Justin, I hope you can hear us. I think that would be the best way of doing it.
Yeah, are you guys? I can hear you guys. Can you not hear me now? I moved around.
I couldn't hear you before, Justin. So I was just saying that. I hope you heard that. Good.
Yeah, no, I can. I've heard everything, and so thank you, Sam. That actually is kind of what I assumed, and that's helpful. So what I was trying to just, for my own sake, so in theory, someone could be a member for 15 years, but maybe they've only accrued 10 years of credit because of whatever, all those credits that you talked about.
Yeah, so like their job, we have people that are members and their job changes, and then they can't, like they're going to be delinquent all the time. So instead of being delinquent, they go on an exempt membership and they stay involved with the company, but they don't accrue any more time.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That I got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Justin. Any other questions? It's okay. Any other questions for Elena while she's here? Yeah, like I said, you can email that. It states you have, and we can, if we have any questions. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Item 11 is discuss and take action to approve a special appropriation of $10,000 for the town campus generator replacement project pending Board of Selectmen approval. Need a motion?
Yep.
Thank you, Fillmore. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Katie. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed or abstention? Motion carries. All right. Sam,
John, where, can we take this from the CNRE fund?
say that again, Stacy?
I'd like to take this from the CNRE fund where the project was originally funded.
Yep.
There's money in there rather than taking it from fund balance.
Sounds good.
Yep.
We agree.
Great.
Thank you. That was easy.
It was easy. Discuss and take action to approve routine line item transfers for fiscal 22 totaling 118,349 and then 43,775 pending the Board of Selectmen approval. More motion, please.
So moved.
Katie, I need a second.
Second.
Thanks, Cindy. Discussion. Approve routine line item transfers. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Opposed or abstentions? That motion carries. Again, we have discuss and take action to approve routine line item transfers for this says fiscal 23 totaling 190,903.10 pending Board of Selectmen approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Fillmore. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Katie. Discussion. We have 190,903.10 for fiscal 23. Say, you want to just highlight that quick?
Yeah, this is a combination of two. The biggest one is just the normal COLA transfer increase that we budget in the salary adjustment account and move it over to the departments for every employee. And then the other part is the reorg that was already budgeted for. It just was not distributed to the correct departments. So we do this. We usually do it in the fall, but we're trying to be proactive this year and do it right on in July.
Thank you. Just in case there are questions, this is fiscal 23.
Yep.
Nice job. I agree. Any other discussion or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Good to have you back, Justin. Any opposed, abstentions? That motion carries. Review of the financials. Bill, I always look at you here. You know that, right?
Well, okay, I took I enjoyed looking at the projected fund balance sheet.
I'm sure you did.
That's looking pretty good. And as usual, we've done a good job of overestimating expenses and underestimating income. So that's the way you're supposed to do it. And it looks like, Stacy, you've been a little bit on the conservative side because still the expenditure variances in the budget, in the statements you sent out showed a little bit more, but I guess you're still waiting for bills to come in. And so you've been conservative in your estimates and will, which you're supposed to do. And so we'll probably see another update next time we meet a little bit closer on. And then all the neat things we can do with the fund balance, such as funding the firemen.
We'll spend it all, Bill Moore.
Well, we'll keep a lot of dry powder here.
Thanks, Bill Moore. Any other comments on the financials? Before we get to citizen comments, like I said, we may not have a meeting in August. That's where we're looking. If we do need to have something for the fireman's pension or something like that, we'll try to let you know as soon as possible. My intention would be not to have an August meeting, a full meeting, okay? Citizens comments, Jacqueline or Stacy, anybody from this public would like to speak?
I don't see anybody.
Once, twice, 3 times, public information session is closed. Fillmore,
Sure. I move we adjourn.
motion to
second
adjourn,
that
is there a
motion.
second? Thank you, Katie. All in favor, say aye. Meeting's adjourned at 7:45. Thank you, everyone.